What's up, everybody? Welcome to State of the Nation, the Athletics Raiders podcast. Jimmy Durkin and Vic Tafur here in Alameda. And Vic, what week are we in? We're going into
Week 11?
Week 11, week 12. I don't know. We got to bye.
Come on, man. Let's get
week 11. Up. We're fired up.
All right. Enthusiasm. They're 1-8. Got a big game against Arizona coming up. Trying to continue their march to the first overall pick of the draft. They had control their own destiny, so if they lose out, they'll definitely have that first pick. Which
they can thank the 49ers. The 49ers lost to the Giants.
Yes.
That puts the Raiders firmly in that pole position. It's all about future assets right now, right?
That's what everyone tells me. So let's focus on the positive or / negative and hope they lose the rest of the way.
Wow. All right. Well, you want to talk about a future asset. You brought him up before, and you want to go all in on him. Le'Veon Bell, I think you've firmly now made your decision. While teammates are actually back in Pittsburgh right now, cleaning out and
grabbing his shoes, grabbing his suits. Gotta love it.
Well, as teammates are doing that, you are formulating the plan for the Raiders to bring excitement back in 2019 with Le'Veon Bell in the backfield.
I think he's the perfect splash move they need. I think he's the kind of guy that doesn't make sense to me logically. If this is a total rebuild, you don't want to sign a running back to a lot of money. But if they are, in fact, going to be here next year, which I think they will be in Oakland next year, I don't think you can go in with this total rebuild thing and say, okay, we're going to keep losing and get some more picks. I think you got to make at least one splashy move that will kind of throws a bone to the fans. I think Mark Davis would be behind this, even though it costs a lot of money. I think John Gruden, I don't think has the patience for a total rebuild for more than 1 year. I can't imagine he wants to go in next year and lose a bunch more games. Supposed to be competitive at least next year. So I think Le'Veon Bell is going to be a Raider next year. I don't think it's a good move. I think it makes zero sense after you've torn everything down and are building from scratch. But again, I just think that's the kind of move they're going to make. I think to, like the 5 steps backward, 1 step forward kind of move. And ideally, they won't tie themselves too much down in terms of salary cap space for the future. But I think it will demand a lot of money. I think there will be a good market for them out there. So.
Yeah, I mean, and they've created this cap space. They've created a lot of cap space that they can absorb a big hit over the next couple of years. I mean, obviously, we all do not really think Marshawn Lynch is probably going to be back. I think if he had kept going and had a good season, they maybe consider it. But if you can bring in Le'Veon Bell for next 3-4 years or whatever, give you somebody to start marketing yourself around for the final year in Oakland, we presume, and we say that because it's still uncertain. Mark Davis did finally speak. He spoke to ESPN on Sunday night. I know you've been calling him. Tim Kawakami's been calling him. Everyone's been calling him, and he hasn't been calling back. But he finally talked to Paul Gutierrez, and among the many things that he said was that he does want to play next year in Oakland. I think we all know that. I mean, the options beyond playing in Oakland are not good because you're talking about going. I mean, to go to some random market for 1 year and try to actually get a good amount of fans to come out is going to be difficult anyway. So assuming they play in Oakland for next year, I guess, would bring a little bit of excitement and then give them a player they can kind of build around going into Vegas.
Because the message is going to be from John Gruden, like every week now he apologizes to the fans. Every week after the game, I'm sorry to Oakland Raider fans. I feel bad. We have something bigger in mind. And so next year, what's he going to say? You can't keep saying that. So he's going to say, you know what? We can win. He's going to spin it somehow. We can turn it around. We can win now. I'm not here I don't have the patience for a major rebuild. We have good enough foundation of young players, which I'm not sure is true, but good enough foundation of young players, draft picks, got a lot of money in free agency next year. We can bring in Le'Veon Bell. He a game changer. I think you can sell it that way. So to me, I just think it makes unfortunately, it makes sense for the Raiders in terms of a splash move to kind of at least give you another year here where fans are not. You want the stands to be empty next year. I think a lot of fans this year are pretty turned off at what's happened. A lot of them are mad about what Gruden's done. Don't really believe in Mark Davis at all. So you need something. You're gonna need something to get some butts in the seats and at least give the false illusion that there's hope for next year, not just everything's towards Vegas.
I think what's difficult, and I think what kind of brings the kind of negative attitudes when you look and start writing about this team, talking about this team, is that on offense, there's only probably one name that I can give you that I can guarantee is going to be on that team in 2020 when they go to Vegas, and that's Kolton Miller. You're not moving on from your first-round pick by then. But is there another name on this team that you can say is definitely going to be on that team?
What's Rodney's deal? Does he have 1 year left or 2 years left? I thought Rodney had 2 more years.
He might have 2 more years.
I would say Rodney's a guy who I think is definitely, even for next year, how many guys on offense can you say for sure are here next year?
Not many.
Outside of Hudson, and Kolton Miller. I think obviously a third-round pick, Brandon Parker, will be on the roster in some regard, but there are a lot of guys. And the receiving core, I'm not sure anyone's back next year. The running back core, Jalen Richard, everyone says he's a piece. He's a third down back, kind of like, if we're down big, he's our guy, which makes that's fine. But I mean, DeAndre Washington, I'm not sure his role here. Marshawn Lynch, I'm not sure what his future is, but I doubt he'll be here for another year. So. There's not a lot of guys to bring back on this offense. Even Derek Carr. Carr's a question mark as far as his future here. So I think they keep talking about the young foundation, the pieces that are in place. There actually aren't that many pieces in place.
Yeah, that's the problem with kind of the feelings about this team, is that we don't know who the future is. I mean, you can say, okay, you can tell me the future is bright, but it was easy to think about the future being bright a few years back when you had Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, Khalil Mack.
Right.
Now,
also, if you're in a 50-foot hole, of course the future is bright because you're in a freaking hole. Anything is better than that. So, I mean, it's the little peak of the sun way in the distance. Yeah, the future is bright. I mean, but you can't say that. You can't. John can't come out every week and say, yeah, we're freaking terrible and I don't know what we're going to do and this sucks and I can't believe I got 7 more weeks of this crap. You can't say that.
Yeah.
But, again, you try to sell it, you are improving, the players you're looking at are getting better. I'm also not sure that's really true, but it's just at this point, it sucks because there's not questions to ask anymore, and the answers are all the same. So you kind of don't want to ask the same questions, and we're all kind of in this mode. We're like, you know what? Let's just get on with this and let's just get to the finish line. So
run out the clock.
Yeah, finish this game.
4-minute offense. Let's keep running the ball. We will see a few new young pieces at wide receiver this week. Jordy Nelson is questionable. John Gruden revealed on Wednesday.
I thought he retired. He didn't retire?
No, he didn't retire.
That's what I kept hearing on Twitter. I thought he was done.
Like 2 random people on Twitter tweet that he's retired, and everybody picks this up. It's ridiculous.
I can't believe Twitter was wrong. That's incredible. So Jordy did not retire. Okay.
And for the record, I'm not going to mention the player that I talked about that was going around. That was not Jordy Nelson.
It's not Jordy?
That was not Jordy Nelson, and that player has not retired either. I think there may have been some thoughts from him that he.
Here's the thing: if anyone who knows Jordy Nelson at all or followed his career or watched him in interviews, he's the last guy in the locker room who's going to have a tantrum and storm out or say things out loud. 2, the last guy to retire mid-season. I mean, even if he's having a rough year, which he has been, maybe there's question in his mind on how much he has left. Just not the kind of guy who's going to quit mid-season the rest of his team. It's just not going to happen. So I just think, is he an impact guy? No. Is he frustrated? Sure.
Does he put the fear of God in people?
No, but this has that was Mark Davis's quote. Yeah, but does he probably text James Jones like, "Man, you told me his team was good"? Probably does that too, but he's not going to quit. So that was kind of a ridiculous guy. I don't know where that came from. Just of all the guys,
2 random guys on Twitter.
Of all the guys to pick out, I'm not sure how they got to Jordy, but he has a bone bruise, questionable this week. So
not going to practice today.
I think Marcel Aitman not only will getting called up in the practice squad. I think he's going to start. Just based on looking who else is there. I'm not sure. I think you have to start Marcel on one side.
Brandon LaFell
on the other side, and Steph in the slot. I can't imagine any other.
Steph also does not put the fear of God in anybody.
I
don't know. It's not. It's true. You can't. I don't know. Those aren't generally quotes you want your owner to go out there and say, but they're true.
I think Mark Davis. He said John Gruden's the guy. Everyone knew that. He can't really criticize John Gruden. But in his own way right there, I think he took a couple shots. He's like, you know what, John? Whatever you do is fine. We're rebuilding. We've torn the roster down. I can't say anything. But I'm going to tweak you. I'm going to tweak you about Jordy Nelson. I'm paying this guy $7.4 million for what? I'm going to tweak you about Seth Roberts. Why do we keep Seth Roberts? I think so. Mark will tweak you in a way where at least John and Reggie will know that they're not totally getting a total pass.
Yeah, definitely. Along with him, also Martavis Bryant dealing with the PCL injury. He is out this week. So Marcel Aitman, active, will play on Sunday, and Saeed Blacknall called up from the practice squad to the active roster. We'll see in terms of the game day if he is up. And
where's Keelan Hatcher? He's still somewhere else, huh?
And John Gruden had to jump out the plane because he cut him.
It's so negative, man. But Keelan Hatcher obviously had a better preseason than Saeed Blacknall, so I just don't. I think it's just it's not. I wouldn't get too excited about that one. So I just think hopefully Marcel Aitman for Raider fans gives him a little bit of some hope. I think he's a big guy, can make some plays in the end zone. The question mark is how much of the rest of his game has improved. Can he be a guy across the middle of the field? Can he get open in a sideline pattern? So we'll see. I think why not? Let's give him a shot.
Keon Hatcher with the Packers now.
Nice.
I'm assuming practice squad, but Raiders did sign 2 new guys to the practice squad. You got the names there for me?
Darius Stewart, I think he's from Alabama, I believe, and then Rashard Davis. Is he a former Eagle?
James Madison from a former Eagle.
2 practice squad guys. I have to imagine that Johnny Holton's still.
Rashard Davis, Super Bowl champion.
There you go. Johnny Holton's still on the practice squad. Also, Johnny Holton's now a DB officially, but I have to imagine if there was a receiver to get called up from the practice squad again, it would probably be Holton over those 2 guys.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Johnny Holton, what a weird life just being a practice squad DB. If you're,
I want to see him play corner, man.
There's no way he's going to play corner. It's just bizarre, but whatever.
But all right, we've got our future core pieces, all these young wide receivers. These are the foundation pieces to build around that we're going to. They're at least people to see.
Yeah, Aitman's a guy you hope he can show you enough that he's a guy on the roster next year.
I mean, if he can be an Andre Holmes type, he's got the size. I don't know that he has the speed of Holmes. I mean, Holmes obviously was a phenomenal special teams player. He was, a big, tall red zone threat and a phenomenal special teams player. I mean, if he could even be that would be pretty good.
Yeah, even just come be like a red zone guy. It's like a guy in the red zone who can post out DBs and make some catches, high points and balls to him because there's still obviously glaring red zone issues on this team. They can't score points. And I think you see some frustrations. Jared Cook last week was definitely frustrated. I'm not sure if it was so much his role or not getting thrown the ball enough or just losing, but I talked to Jared today. But in that game, he was almost getting a bunch of fights. He was jawing at guys the whole game and clearly unhappy. And Gruden said, you know what, everyone's frustrated. I mean, that's where we're at. So I just think Jared Cook, I'm sure part of it is that this is his contract year. I mean, he was off to such a great year on the show, such a great year. He's a big part of the offense. Everything's looking up. Now, the last 5 weeks, he hasn't done much. He hasn't gotten the ball enough. They're losing. I think probably in his mind, he was talking about the future, and the free agency is not as lucrative as it might seem.
He's 31? I mean,
31 years old. So I can see why he's frustrated. So, I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yep. Well, let's talk a little bit about Derek Carr. Obviously, a lot of heat coming his way on Sunday for that game. As Mark Davis said, he's taking a lot of shit right now, and he took a lot of shit on Sunday from everybody.
You get paid $25 million a year. You got to take shit.
Yeah, and the 4th and 5 play. I mean, he was kind of asked a little bit more about it today, and it's still pretty much sticking with that was the play. And I mean, I get it that in terms of the play that was called, that's the only guy he's told to look at. So the fact that Seth Roberts kind of leaked free and that, if he was kind of there, the way they run that play, I would assume, based on what they're telling us, that is not even there's not even a second look on that play. You don't even.
There has to be. I mean, I get it. Gruden.
You can't run a 4th and 5 play that has only one look.
Right.
I mean, and Gruden kind of is trying to absorb the heat. And if that's true that play only has one look, then that is on Gruden. That's a terrible play call.
I think it can be both a terrible play call, and I still blame Derek Carr. I think because
improvise.
Yeah, we're playing a game. It's football. I mean, he's been playing. He'll tell you, I'm playing since I was a kid. I've been watching film since I was a kid. All right, fine. So you should know by now. On 4th down, if it's your last chance to get in the back of this game, you can't just throw the ball nonchalantly on the ground. You can't just ground it and go on to the next. There's no next play. That's it. I mean, you gotta He's like, well, if I would have gotten sacked. Well, then try and fight the guy off or spin around
And I know he had been strip sacked the earlier in the game when he tried to fight off the sack. But
I even asked him point blank, it wouldn't be better off throwing the ball up in the air for grabs. It would not be better off than chucking it on the ground. He's like, no, you can't do that. I'm like, I don't understand. I just think
because the big thing is it was not a screen play.
It was not a screen play.
So he did have the option to throw the ball down the field.
It was a weird pick
play.
Yeah, but I just think I've been saying this for a while. I think Derek's in his head a lot, and I mean you see all his mistakes this year. A lot of he's gone both ways. They're being too cautious, not cautious enough. He's not making the right decisions. I think this is a case where you just can't. It can't be a play you make. You can't do that. I'm sure Gruden, off the record of fellow coaches, I'm sure would question what the hell Derek's doing in that play. You can't. I mean, and Gruden's not criticizing anyone this year. That's his approach is like it's all on me. It's my fault.
Blame me.
But, yeah, whatever. So I just
Hey, we have a boss like that.
wow. What's up, Tim? But it's just a terrible play all the way around. Terrible play call, terrible execution, and just like not the lack of ownership of it. I think Derek Carr's got to say, you know what, I screwed up. You're right. I should have done something else. I mean, at that moment, I don't know, but I just think other players in the team wonder, like, what was that? I mean, and if they haven't, then they're checked out so far that it's sad. But just I don't recall other high-end quarterbacks doing that. I can't recall one just nonchalantly throwing the ball on the ground on fourth down.
I know he's not the athlete that Patrick Mahomes is, but I watched that guy spin around and do all these creative things to make plays. Throw it with the left hand.
There's a good chance he doesn't get sacked, but when he grounds the ball, Ingram's still 2 yards. 2 yards. 2 yards is not a lot. He's closing in, but you give him a stiff arm. Just throw the ball up for grabs. You just can't chuck it and then on the ground and walk away and whatever. We'll live to fight another day. But it's just it's got to be instincts. The instincts, I think, what we saw at Carr in 2016, kind of just the ability to make plays, improvise, kind of live on the edge. That seems to be gone now. That's totally gone. And like Gruden said when we talked to him today, it's on John also. John's what was the quote? He says, I've not helped him as much as I hoped I would, which I think is telling. I think that you look at Carr's, I don't know if it's getting worse, but he hasn't improved this year, and that's on John.
Yeah, and another quote that was telling today for me from Derek Carr, where he said, turning the ball over is worse for me than throwing a check down if it's not completely open. And I know we talked about this quote, and you said that if your understanding is this is what's being pounded into his head. And we remember the guy that was Brett Favre inspired, wears number 4, I'm a gunslinger, I'm going to take chances. And now I'd rather check the ball down than throw a pass that isn't completely open, just because he's that afraid of throwing an interception. I know he's thrown some bad interceptions, but man, to be that afraid of trying, sometimes you have to just try to make a play. And in 2016, he didn't turn the ball over, but he made plays. He was conservative at times, but he was aggressive. He found that perfect balance, and they really need to find a way to get him back to that balance. But that's pretty telling that he's more afraid of turning the ball over than he is, just, hey, let me take a chance. Yeah,
I think he's mentally, I think he's all screwed up. I think that's on the coaching staff as well as on him. I just think when you're looking at next season, if they get a trade offer during the draft or thinking about his future, the bottom line is, does he make a difference? Is he a difference maker for us? We're paying him a lot of money. Is he a guy that makes us a lot better than other teams at that quarterback position? And in recent weeks, it hasn't been true. He got outplayed by Nick Mullins. Again, the Raiders' defense is terrible, but you can't lose that matchup if you're paying your quarterback $25 million. That's not good.
Yep. All right. You want to take a few questions?
Let's do it.
All right. As you guys always know, State of the Nation Mail, you can use the hashtag SOTNMail. We put the call out just before we sat down, and we'll go through a few of these. From Jared Herman, why not take a chance on Terrell Pryor? He was Al's final draft pick. We have no wide receivers. If used creatively, he can make some plays. Also be the number 3 quarterback.
Here's my answer to that one. The Buffalo Bills have no receivers. The Buffalo Bills are terrible. The Buffalo Bills recently waived Terrell Pryor after he's been waived by the Redskins. And who else? I think another team waived him this year. He's bounced around a lot, which tells me he's not the same as he was athletically back in his prime when he was here. Mentally, that's always been an issue as far as the playbook, and so I just don't think it makes sense. I would rather see Saeed Blacknell than Terrell Pryor.
And what's how motivated and inspired is he to come play for a terrible Raiders team?
Yeah, then he's all right, whatever. Say he comes here, he's motivated, he plays well, makes a play. Week 3, he's like, you know what? I should play quarterback. I should get in there. He's all about himself, God bless him. So at some point, it was like, you know what? Derek Carr is having trouble. Maybe he should give me a couple of reps of quarterback. And he's not a guy you want in here when things are kind of falling apart.
All right, Joey Bates. I don't see any free agent quarterbacks that would be better than Carr, but do you see Gruden drafting a Greer or a Drew Lock in the second to bring in competition? I'd be shocked if they don't. It's some round in this draft take a quarterback.
Yeah, especially because we talked about last week. A.J. McCarron's contract spikes up, so I'm not sure A.J.'s back here next year. Yeah. So you need someone not only who can possibly at some point compete with Derek, but at least can be number 2 guy next year. So That'd be a great question. I wonder how high John takes a quarterback, and I wonder if he signs a free agent, quarterback, someone who can kind of maybe push Derek a little bit.
Yep. All right. Based Boy 89 says the Raiders have scored 10 points or fewer in 5 of their last 6 games. Who's to blame? Play calling or lack of execution by the quarterback?
I asked John the same question on Monday, and John said it's a combination. He mentioned the play calling. He mentioned injuries a lot, which I'll give him that. The O-line's had some injuries. I think it's made things tough. It's not a total excuse, but
Derek doesn't have a lot of these games. Derek doesn't have any time to throw. They played terrible against the Niners. I can't really bury Carr for that one because he had no time to throw. The game in London, no time to throw. There's been a lot of those games where he's had no time to throw.
Right, and then also the receivers have gotten a lot worse since the start of the year. When we started off with Derek talking about the best receiving core he's ever had, all those guys are gone now. So I just think that you're replacing guys with guys who are part-time players at best. Mark Davis himself kind of took a shot at both Steph and Jordy. And Brandon LaFell, God bless him, is not really a difference maker at this point in his career. So you're kind of having Derek throw behind injured O-line to a bunch of receivers who are not really guys who are playmakers, so it's not a great combination.
All right, and this is a sign of where we've gotten with this season and this podcast. Question here from M. Reed. Cheetos, crunchy or puffs?
I'm not a puff guy. I'm a
crunchy.
Yeah, pretty much any kind of food, I'm going crunchy.
All right. Michael Stewart, is Gunther's job safe?
Yeah, I think there's no question. I think
that's the guy he went in on.
Yeah, I think I don't think Paul's done a good job, but I think Paul himself has said this is not the roster he thought he was going to have. He mentioned it last week. He thought he was going to have different guys here. I think Mark Davis pretty much gave Gruden a pass the other day in the interview, pretty much put it on the roster and that John's doing everything right. So I don't see why they would make any changes to the staff if John doesn't want to. So I think Gruden, Gunther, and Ole are all back here next year.
Yeah, you got to give it at least another year of trying to bring in some more guys and just kind of seeing what you can build. It's obviously been bad. I don't think Gunther should be given a pass or anything like that. But you kind of do. You got to. He's the guy that you had circled, identified for a long time that he was the defensive coordinator you wanted to hire when you got back into it, and you don't just give up on that after a year. I don't think.
Yeah, hopefully, for Raider fans, we'll see some positives develop in the next 7 weeks. Like they moved Markel Lee, the strong side linebacker, last week. Maybe that's a possible home for him. They keep talking about Kabinda every now and then. Maybe Kabinda can be a guy who can be Nicholas Morrow. So let's see some young guys play better. Let's see some improvement from this. Let's see Arden Key have more than one sack the rest of the way. So
yeah,
I got to see something from both Gunther and from his young guys on defense.
Yep. All right, from Ismail. I was watching, and this has been a fun talking point this week. I was watching Gruden's quarterback camp with Nate Peterman, and Gruden said he's pro-ready, among other praisings. Peterman is now statistically the worst quarterback to ever play in the NFL. Your thoughts?
Here's the thing. I know that's making the rounds, and everyone's ripping on Gruden's quarterback evaluations, but was there one quarterback he didn't like in that quarterback camp? I can't recall.
Has there ever been a quarterback he doesn't like?
So then I'm not going to rip the guy for liking Peterman if he likes everybody. So I just and if I recall, Peterman also had other guys who liked him. I think he was kind of a popular sleeper pick in the draft. So, and you know what? A lot of teams look at the Raiders and when they pick up people, I think it's the same with Buffalo. You can't blame the player for everything that happens there. Buffalo gets a lot of the blame with him, I'm sure. And when guys leave here, he was in the Raiders. Bruce Irvin. Bruce Irvin got a pay raise when he left here. He was pretty bad this year, and he kind of checked out at some point. He got an extra $1.5 million to play somewhere else, and part of that's you know what, that poor bastard, he was in the Raiders. They're you can't judge him for what happened there this year. That was a train wreck, so we need a pass rusher. Let's get Bruce, and so you got more money. God bless him. So I just think that we're back to that point now where we were a few years back. We're he's on the Raiders? Well, poor bastard. You can't blame him for what's going on there.
We're at a point now where we have Ryan Switzer taking shots at the Raiders. We've reached that point where he was tweeting that he was so thankful that Pittsburgh came in and got him out of where he was. Yeah.
That was odd. Ryan's always had a little edge to him, but I'm not sure that was the classiest tweet.
No. All right. Question here from James. Which players currently on the Raiders roster do you see as building blocks for Gruden's vision, i.e. guys he will build around rather than get rid of?
I think it's all the rookies this year, right?
Mo Hurst, P.J. Hall, who has not had a good rookie year, Arden Key.
Arden Key's kind of disappeared at times. Again, I think it's just too much to ask for him. I think he
Yeah.
came in number 3 guy, number 3 pass rusher. Now he's number 1. I think he's got to put some more muscle on. I think he's still got to learn some techniques a little bit. But those 3 guys, and then we mentioned on offense the tackles. Kolton Miller definitely. Hopefully Brandon Parker can establish himself as a right tackle in this league. But there's not a lot. There's really not a lot of exciting young players on this roster. Marcel Aitman will be a guy who you would think hopefully could carve out a role for himself in the next 7 weeks. We'll see how that goes, but it's not much here.
See next year, Chris Warren.
Oh yeah, Chris Warren.
You know, I wish they hadn't stashed him. I wish he's the kind of guy that, especially when Marshawn got hurt, that you would at least like to see him this year. I mean, I know our listeners, I know our readers, how they would answer this. Would you rather be watching Doug Martin right now, who is playing well? We'll give him credit, he's playing well. Would you rather watching Doug Martin or at least getting a glimpse of Chris Warren?
Well, not only that, though. I mean, it was a decision that John made between Warren and DeAndre Washington. DeAndre Washington
he doesn't play.
Doesn't play at all, and he always thought, like, him and Jalen Richard, kind of the same guy. They're both kind of interesting in terms of the way the NFL's going these days. The satellite guys who can help identify the other team's coverages and catch some balls out of the backfield. But clearly, that was a mistake. Clearly, that DeAndre Washington was expendable this year, and they could have used Chris Warren this year. And if they do sign Le'Veon Bell next year, then Chris Warren would be a nice change of pace back and come in and be the inside guy. So that does not ruin my Le'Veon Bell vision, Chris Warren having a role next year.
All right, solid. Another sign of where these questions are going from Jim. Why does it hurt when I pee?
Wow.
See a doctor, Jim.
Yeah, see a doctor.
All right, Henry Smith, what did you make of Carl Joseph's performance on he said Saturday, it was Sunday. Thought he played well apart from a couple of small moments. He had a couple of flashes. He had a
big hit.
He had a couple big hits, I think.
I have not seen. That's the thing I've always complained about with him. That was the thing you heard coming out of college. That was what he was. I never saw it. I never saw him. So that's a good sign. Maybe he gets more confident and kind of can get comfortable in his defense. But he missed a pretty big tackle on that one play.
Yeah.
And just the size will always be a question mark. So at this point, I think you're kind of hoping he can carve out a role for himself. Maybe he's not a starter. Maybe he's a backup safety.
All right, last couple of questions here from Jimmy Hatt. Is this the worst Raiders team since moving back from L.A.? If not, where would you put them on that list?
Well, this is my 9th year, so this is definitely the worst team I've covered. The 20, I mean, it's tough. The 0-10 team, I think it was different because I had coaches telling me at training camp that year, we might lose all our games off the record. I'm like, wow. But at least there was that young foundation we talked about, the young guys you had hope for. Like you had the Carr and Mack and Gabe Jackson and even Jelly. And just so there was a sense that there was something being built.
Yeah.
And whereas right now the feeling is that it's being torn down and it'll be built next year or 2020. So, like, we're back at that phase where, like, there's not a lot of guys you can get excited about right now.
Yeah.
I mean, Maurice Hurst is great. I mean, he's definitely been good, but is he going to be like a game-changing type player? I'm not sure he is. I mean, I think he'll be a very good, situational guy who can.
Is he going to be better than what Justin Ellis has been? Where Justin Ellis has been a guy that kind of plugs some holes, doesn't make a whole lot of splash plays. I think Hurst offers more pass rush, obviously, than Jelly. But
I think he's going to be good. I don't ever see it. I don't know if he can be great, which, I mean, it's no slight on him, but I just don't know if you have guys who can be potential stars at this point right now, which I think is in 2014, 0-10, you had guys who you thought would be stars.
Yep. All right, final question here, and we'll let you dance around this as need be, but from Dan O'Neill says, what specifics can Vic provide about the lack of leadership he referred to last year? Obviously, after Jack Del Rio got fired, I know you wrote a story that was read quite a bit about this team. It wasn't just a Jack Del Rio issue. It was an issue of leadership, that this team did not have leaders that were able to bring them together. As much as you can or are able to say, what would you kind of speak to that about?
Well, I think like the young guys who were supposed to be leaders, like Derek Carr and Khalil Mack, both did not do a great job last year. I think Khalil's always been more of a lead by example kind of guy. Yeah. But even I think last year when things were starting to fall apart, there was a need for a strong presence in the locker room, and he was not that. Derek Carr, same way. Derek Carr is always very positive and tries to talk to everybody, but again, not the fiery kind of guy you need. I think when things are falling apart, Michael Crabtree was not his thing. So I just think that guys who you may have thought would have been leaders in that team were not. And then when things with Jack kind of when it caved in, there was no one to stop it. Navarro Bowman, for all his Twitter rants and how he feels slighted, was not that guy last year. Last year he came in, plugged a hole, but didn't really do anything as far as the culture change or trying to get guys to learn how to win or handle adversity. So, I mean,
Rodney Hudson's another captain who is more of a quiet guy too.
More of a lead by example guy who, and again, I don't know if your center can really do that. I don't know if your center can come in and demand the rest of the locker room, and Bruce Irvin wasn't quite there either as a leader. So I just think that there wasn't much in the locker room as far as because there was so much hopes at the beginning of that year. Like Super Bowl team was all this talk about. There was a little cockiness to them a little bit, and then they got hit in the mouth pretty good against the Redskins, and things kind of fell off from there. I just think there wasn't anyone to really grab the locker room and say, "Hey, man, this is we have a level here. We expect this. We have expectations. We gotta we gotta work harder. We gotta. I think at some point it was acceptance. I think I'm not gonna name names, but a lot of the guys in that team who were veteran guys kind of took it for what it was, and didn't really fight the slide. And I think Jack didn't have much of a hold in the locker room either. So I just think that the way things went down, it was kind of. I could see why you come in and question the roster in terms of what we have in terms of a leadership, and I think that's what's happened.
Has leadership been any better or worse in your view this year?
I don't think it's been any better. I think they brought in guys. They brought in 24 veteran guys. And that's hard when you bring guys in who are brand new and say, "Okay, you guys got to lead us." They don't know who anybody is.
And they've cut two of their defensive captains.
Derek Johnson, I think that was a bad signing because not only did he not have a lot left, but they kind of forced him into a leadership role, which is tough if people don't know. You got to be able to be a leader. You got to go in and show you can do it. And he's shown that somewhere else, but he didn't show it here. So to be a voice that demands respect, you have to play at a certain level. And I think that wasn't there. I think Frosty Rucker's tried to be that guy. Frosty Rucker definitely came in and kind of, I think, saw some of it was lacking. I think kind of took over the reins from Bruce early on as far as trying to be the voice in the locker room. But again, it's a guy he's a solid player, been around, but I don't know if you can. He's not a lead by.
You have to make plays to be a leader. Like Reggie Nelson is a captain. Guys like him, but he's not out there making plays. And that same deal last year. I mean, when you're not making a lot of plays, when you're at times part of the problem on defense, how can you be the guy that galvanizes them? And I think that's probably part of the problem right now with Derek Carr, where Derek Carr is struggling. It's hard to galvanize a team when you're just with your words, when you're not also doing it with your actions. You need to marry the two of them.
Yeah, and I also go back to Maurice Hurst. I think of all the rookies he brought in this year, he's the one guy who I could see becoming that guy. I think he wants it. I think he has that kind of the energy and that dog in him. I think he could definitely demand it out of guys if he's good enough. So I think he has eyes in that role. And if you can't, this year, being a rookie is hard, but I can see next year him coming in and really trying to establish that this is my defense. We're going to follow me. And I think that's one thing about him that's exciting. I think Maurice could be that guy.
Yeah, he's got the personality. Yeah. He's got the playmaking. He can kind of marry it all, and we'll see if he can develop into that.
And on offense, you just hope that
Kolton Miller's not that guy. I mean, even if he ends up being a very standout left tackle for you, doesn't have the personality to be a big leader.
Yeah, the only hope on offense is that Derek can kind of take all the adversity from this year and turn it around, finish strong, and kind of take hold of this team, which he hasn't done the last couple of years. But he did it a while back, but I think he has to really maybe that's part of the test. Maybe that's part of what Gruden wants to see. Him take not only to play better, but kind of take over this team in terms of the pulse of this team and kind of lead it in a way that you're doing more than is expected. You actually are rising to a challenge and overexceeding what they are. So at this point, it hasn't happened. So I think maybe that's part of the problem with Derek as well. He's not making guys better.
All right, well, we are going to get ready for Sunday's game in Arizona. You want to make a quick prediction? It's kind of early in the week. We're recording earlier in the week than normal, so I haven't fully thought out a prediction yet.
I don't have a score, but I do not think it's going to be good. I really think if you're the Cardinals, they have enough talent on offense and even defense. There's some playmakers on both sides of the ball. This is their chance to eat. This is their chance to really put on a show.
David Amerson pick six?
I don't know about that. It's not so maybe Chandler Jones made 2 sacks. Maybe David Johnson has the
David Johnson is going to eat.
Yeah, the fantasy day everyone's waiting for all year long in terms of fantasy football. But I just think this is a chance. They've won a couple games already. This is
both against the Niners.
Both against the Niners. This is a chance for them to go against a really bad defense and kind of make their fans happy for at least one day a year. With the Raiders, I think they're coming off a home game. You lost that one again. They haven't even covered a spread in 5 weeks. But forget losing. They're losing by large margins.
They have a chance to set an NFL record.
Yeah, I just don't know what the motivation is to play that well in Arizona. I mean, it's not going to be exciting. I mean, there's nothing. Obviously, there's the pride you take in yourself and to do your job, but at this point, that's not going to be enough.
All right, well, that'll wrap up this week's show, and check out all of our work over at The Athletic. We'll talk to you guys again later.
Peace.